This week's Wednesday's weekly question comes from Reddit user Kind Philosophy, who asks why I personally believe God exists. Welcome to The Current Christian, where we give disciples the tools and tips they need to grow their ministry. Every Wednesday, we release a video where we explore questions that you ask on the internet. You won't want to miss our next episode, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. And if you are interested in sending us your own questions, you can do so by tweeting us at @thecurrentchrist. I got it written out, and putting hashtag WWQ. This week, we have a question from Kind Philosophy, who asks, what personally shows you that a God exists? I'm very interested in religion and Christianity. I just want to know, what is your reason that there is a supreme deity? Not particularly the Christian God, but rather any God. I'm leaning more theistic in my views. Please prove the idea of theism. Thank you. Cool. So this is a really great question. Instinctually, I just kind of want to start listing out some thought exercises to show my reasoning for why there is an all-powerful, all-knowing, timeless, spaceless, immaterial being we call God. But before I do that, I want to answer why I personally believe that God exists. So the reason I believe God exists is that I've personally encountered God's love countless times. I've also trusted God and listened to him so many times that the chances things worked out because of luck or randomness is just highly improbable. It would literally require me to have more faith to believe there is no God than for me to believe there is one. All these things were just personal experiences. I had things happen where I pray that God provides me some guidance, and then 2 seconds later I'll receive a text message that contains the exact message I need to hear. I've had times where I felt God wanted me to pray for someone, and in the middle of praying I'd describe an image that perfectly conveyed this, whatever the stranger was going through. I even had this one time where I asked God something simple like where can I find a printer? I need to print something out. And in that moment, I got the most specific directions to go into a specific building that I've never entered before, go down the stairs, and to the left, there would be computers and a printer for me to use. And wouldn't you know it, there were the computers and a printer for me to use. So it was insane things like that. And also when I went down there to use the computers, there was only one other person, and they came up to me saying that God felt like he wanted her to invite me to check out their church. And now about 5 years later, I'm still going to that church and have significantly grown spiritually and matured a whole lot behaviorally as well. But those experiences were just some of mine, and many I honestly can't remember every single experience, but I've had enough to realize that this stuff isn't happening by chance. But my analytical reasons as to why I believe God exists kind of goes back to the idea of improbability. There's this analogy about how if you were walking in the desert and found a Rolex or an Apple Watch on the ground, you wouldn't think that it made itself out of random chance. You'd look at this intricately complex and intentionally made item and think, someone must have placed or dropped this here. Obviously, the watch didn't just pop into existence, but it also didn't randomly come together without a designer. I see it the same way with life. I got a bachelor's in science studying the human body at Syracuse University, so I have a pretty good understanding of how complex the human body is. If our DNA has just one little mutation, it could be the difference between a healthy cell and terminal cancer. If our body doesn't properly produce one of many hormones we have in our circulatory system, we could die. If we don't have something as simple as a gene that regulates how much sodium we can have in our bloodstream, we'll die as well. And to see all this wonderful and complex life around us and to think it got this way by randomness requires too much faith for me. You'd have a far better chance at taking individual letters from the alphabet, tossing them up in the air, having those letters randomly land on the ground to form correctly spelled words that form correctly coherent grammatical sentences that properly explain how to bake a birthday cake than it would be for our DNA to randomly come together and form us. Even to say that evolution brought things to where they are today isn't seeing things by the big picture. Evolution doesn't disprove God. It proves that there is a plan and a right path that life needs in order to progress down the right road to grow and thrive. Anything that deviates from that path has obviously gone extinct. My reasons don't necessarily support that there is a Christian God, though, but that was just some of the personal reasons as to why I believe there is a timeless, spaceless, immaterial, all-powerful, all-knowing creator that we tend to label as God. If you would like to hear even more as to why God exists, I've linked 2 videos below by Frank Turek, who does a lot of talk about this, and I'll admit that the manner in which he presents things does come across as very brass, but he does offer some really good things to think about, and I think he does a better job at presenting it than me. So, Kind Philosophy, thank you so much for your question. I truly had a lot of time thinking about what my personal reasons were for believing there's a God, and thank you for watching. I'd also like to thank our community of supporters over on Patreon. This video wouldn't be made possible without you, and if you really like this video, you too can join our crew of Patreon supporters by donating a few dollars a month to the Current Christian channel. Remember to hit that subscribe button and the little bell icon if you haven't done so already. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in our next video.